Welcome back to Trending News United States. Are you ready to listen the top 10 trending politics news? What's going on? Number 1. The US Embassy in Bogotá warned Colombian politicians to avoid getting involved in US election. The US Ambassador Philip S. Goldberg tweeted for Colombian lawmakers. The success of relations between the US and Colombia over many years has been based on bipartisan support. I urge all Colombian politicians to avoid getting involved in US elections, as South Americans were supporting President Donald Trump's campaign. Florida, with 29 votes in the Electoral College, is a key battleground state in the 3rd November election, and the Latino vote is seen as critical. Donald Trump is also continuously tweeting against Joe Biden that Joe Biden is a puppet of Castro Chavistas like Crazy Bernie, AOC and Castro lover Karen Bass. Biden is supported by socialist Gustavo Petro, major loser and former M19 guerrilla leader. Biden is weak on socialism and will betray Colombia. I stand with you. Kabul has argued that Biden has been led by the radical socialist wing of the Democratic Party, that coronavirus was hatched in China as part of a Marxist plot, and that the Minnesota Representative Ilhan Omar is an apologist for militant Antifa groups fighting in Syria. Senator Kabul said, "Of course, I am campaigning for Trump and have been doing so since he first announced his candidacy. That's not a crime. I have the absolute right to campaign for whoever I want." Whereas Cepeda said, "There is a line being crossed and it could be crossing into something that is illegal. Even if their behavior is legal, it sets a worrying precedent in a nation that has long been viewed by Washington as key ally in the war on drugs and remains a closer partner in a coalition to dislodge the Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro." This is a break from the bipartisan relations that the Colombia has had with the US. This government has broken a basic and fundamental norm, and that could have consequences. Benjamin Geron is a deputy director of the Latin America program at the Wilson Center, said, "Getting involved in another country's election is a classic foreign policy faux pas and endlessly jeopardizes future diplomatic relationships. It is not as bad as covert Russian meddling, but it's risky." Number 2. President Donald Trump promised to suburban women to get their husbands back to work if he is re-elected. President consistently lagging behind Democratic nominee Joe Biden in service of women, he has made several attempts at wooing female voters in recent weeks, at one point even saying, "Suburban women, will you please like me?" during a campaign rally. He said earlier in this month, "The women come up to me, the women who say they don't like me, they actually do like me a lot." Biden has led among white female registered voters by an average of 13 points. Number 3. Mark Zuckerberg delays big tech hearing over connection issues. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg had trouble connecting remotely to his hearing before the Senate Commerce, Science and Transportation Committee on Wednesday. Chairman Roger Wicker to recess the hearing for 2 minutes. Mark Zuckerberg was slated to deliver his opening statement last. Among Wednesday's witnesses included Google CEO Sundar Pichai and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey. Mr. Wicker said, suppressing his annoyance that the CEO of one of the biggest tech companies in the world was experiencing technical difficulties dialing into the hearing. He added, "At this point, we are unable to make contact with Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. We are told by the Facebook staff that he is alone and attempting to connect with this hearing, and that they are requesting a 5-minute recess at this point to see if that connection can be made. I think this is a most interesting development," Mr. Wicker, Republican of Mississippi, said, banging the chairman's gavel. "But we are going to accommodate the request of Facebook employees and see if within 5 minutes we can make contact and proceed. So at this point, I will declare a 5-minute recess." Number 4. President Donald Trump said New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew had guts when he abandoned the Democratic Party to join the Republicans. This is a race where whoever wins the presidential contest will probably carry in the congressional winner as well. said Ben Chorkin, director of the Institute for Public Policy and Citizenship at New Jersey's Rowan University. Van Drew's challenger says many South New Jersey voters suffering from unemployment and worried about their health care changed their minds about Trump because of his handling of the coronavirus pandemic. It's really revealed a lack of leadership, a failure to be able to really organize an appropriate response. Number 5. Justice Thomas' wife boasts unsustained claims of corruption by Joe Biden. Ginny Thomas, a long-time conservative activist, asked her more than 10,000 followers Monday to consider sharing a link focused on alleged corruption by the Democratic nominee for president and his son Hunter, as well as claims that social media companies are censoring reports about the Bidens. Other spouses of justices also have their own professional identities. But Thomas is the only one whose work involves partisan politics that sometimes butts up against her husband's job. Clarence Thomas is the longest-serving current justice, having joined the court in 1991, and he administered at the swearing-in of new Justice Amy Coney Barrett on Monday evening. She wrote on Facebook Tuesday that she was so excited to be Barrett's swearing in. Clarence said, "As we left, I wish your mom was still alive," which drew my tears as she would be living each minute and emotion of this historic day, a day President Trump made possible, Thomas wrote. On 10th October, she wrote, "Most citizens should know about the biggest scandal and the evidence now piling up. #Obamagate." Number 6. President Donald Trump is ending his re-election bid. Listen to what Trump has said. "It wasn't even going to be like we had an election. I probably wouldn't be standing out here in the freezing rain with you. I would be home in the White House, doing whatever the hell I was doing. I wouldn't be out here. We win Wisconsin, we win the whole ball game. What the hell do you think I'm doing here on a freezing night with 45-degree winds? Do you think I am doing this for my health? I'm not doing this for my health. I may never have to come back here again if I don't get lower. I will never be back. By the way, nice trucks. You think I could hop into one of them and drive it away? I would love to just drive the hell out of here. Just get the hell out of this." He went on, "I had such a good life. My life was great. We were going to be out at the airport, but the governor made it very difficult, so I said, that's alright, get the location-friendly people. The spots are aired on large screens, which Trump notes to his crowds he spent a lot of money on. One thing nice is when you put this thing up here, saves you a lot of words, right? It saves you a lot of words. I mean, I'm standing here freezing," he said. "I ask you one little favor, get the hell out and vote." Number 7. The fatal shooting of another black man on America's street by police has brought the fraught issues of policing and racism back to the fore of the presidential election in its closing days. The encounter, caught on video, spurred violent unrest in Philadelphia and now has both President Donald Trump and Democrat Joe Biden calibrating how to address some of the same questions that roiled American cities on the presidential campaign earlier this year as they negotiate the endgame for a race in which Pennsylvania is a critical battleground. Trump said of the former vice president and his running mate, saying Kamala Harris during a campaign rally, "I can tell you Biden and Harris stand with the rioters and the vandals. I stand with the heroes of law. They should be able to handle it themselves," Trump said. Biden and Harris spoke strongly of black life that mattered. "We cannot accept that in this country a mental health crisis ends in death. There is no excuse whatsoever for the looting and the violence." He also said he would set up a commission if elected to study how you diminish the prospect of lethal shootings in circumstances like the one we saw in West Philadelphia. Bishop John Roster, interim executive director of Power Interfaith, the group of Pennsylvania religious leaders focused on social justice issues. He said, "Can't stand the rhetoric coming out of the White House," but Roster, who is black, also said Biden and Harris have work to do to show their support for the black community. "I think the black wants healing. I think the community wants healing, but they are also desperate for a change." Roster has said, "I think it's terrible the way they are treating police in Philadelphia right now. They are not getting any support from the politicians, from the public," has said. "If they have issues with the police, they should give them more money for training, not defund them." "He's right, he is," Brady said, adding that he disagrees with the police's and criminal justice changes advanced by some of the city's Democratic leaders. Pius, who is white, said, he understood why people were upset by the violent shooting. By now, the police should know better, he said. He didn't have a gun, he had a knife. Number 8. Barack Obama is ready to join Democratic nominee Joe Biden election campaign during the final weekend of the election. Obama has held 3 solo appearances over the past week campaigning for his former vice president, releasing his return to the campaign trail to help deliver a closing argument against his successor, President Donald Trump. The former president, who remains a popular figure in the Democratic, made his debut last week with a stump speech in Pennsylvania and delivered his most direct attack against Trump to date. He continued his campaigning over the weekend in Miami and on Tuesday in Orlando as he zeroes in a handful of Trump launches final battleground pitch where voting is underway. In the home stretch of the election, Democrats hope Obama can help motivate black men, Latinos, and younger voters to turn out and vote for Biden and vice presidential nominee Kamala Harris. Former presidents traditionally avoid directly attacking their successors, but Obama, who has been a target of Trump since he left office nearly 4 years ago, has stepped up his criticism of the Republican president in recent days, hitting him on everything from his handling of the coronavirus pandemic to his behavior in office and propensity to angry tweet to his jobs record. Trump on Tuesday tweeted, "Now at the red Fox News is playing Obama's no crowd fake speech for Biden, a man he could barely endorse because he couldn't believe he owned." Now number 9. Trump's final battleground speech. President Donald Trump is continuously trying to convince voters and win this election. The president will hold 5 rallies in 5 states on Sunday alone. Let me ask you, is there a better place to be anytime anywhere than a Trump rally? Trump asked a massive crowd Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania that responded in roaring approval. Most black voters in Philly have been skeptical of mail-in voting, said Joe Hill, a veteran Democratic operative turned lobbyist from the city. "A lot of us have gotten our ballots already," Hill said, but added, "Election day has always been everything in Philadelphia. Biden will spend much of Sunday in Philadelphia encouraging voters to turn out. He will participate in a source to the polls event that's aimed at encouraging black church congregations to organize and vote." Philadelphia's return rate was higher at 74.6%, but it had the highest raw total of outstanding ballots with more than 101,000 statewide. Registered Democrats maintained a solid advantage over Republicans on returned ballots, 1.54 million to about 520,000 in a separate analysis. The Democratic data firm TargetSmart found that more than 385,000 of the early Democratic voters didn't vote at all in 2016. Micah said he's got a real base, but there is just no evidence that he's done anything to reach anybody who didn't already like him in 2016, and he's lost people who weren't sure about him but were willing to take the gamble. It's not just about Philadelphia. Last but not the least, number 10. Joe Biden's campaign released a list of his biggest fundraisers Saturday night. Biden, who raised a record-shattering $380 million for his campaign and allied committees last Monday, named 817 bundlers, high-dollar donors who have tapped into their personal networks to raise at least $1 lakh for the candidate. Typically, after giving their own maximum contribution to the Biden campaign, it includes familiar names like Hollywood film producer Jeffrey Katzenberg, former Commerce Secretary Penny Pritzker, and Dennis Barrow, former U.S. Ambassador to Belgium. A handful of celebrities appeared on the list, including director Lee Daniels, former The View host Star Jones, and TV showrunner Ryan Murphy, as did several Wall Street executives, including Blackstone executive Tony James and venture capitalist Alan Patrikoff. Several big names from Silicon Valley, including LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman and venture capitalist Ron Conway, were on the list, but a few major Democratic donors from the tech scene were absent, like Facebook co-founder Dustin Moskovitz and former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, who have been poured millions of dollars into their own super PAC called Future Forward. More than 30 current and former members of the U.S. House also bundled for Biden, including Reps Pramila Jayapal, the co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Will Demings, who was The co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, Will who was on Biden's list of possible vice presidential picks before the job went to Kamala Harris and Dave Haaland. Another 20 US senators were also on the list of Biden puntlers. That's all. I'm very curious to know who will be the next US president. Are you? Subscribe or follow Trending News United States for business, politics, technology, sports and entertainment news. If you like this news, then hit the like button, and if you feel so, then comment below.